In the Black community, we often talk about saving the family, rebuilding the household, or restoring what was once lost. But the truth is, we can't fix what we don't measure. For years, people have said, Black people just don't get married anymore. That's become a cultural slogan repeated so often that even we've started to believe it. But when you separate the data by gender, when you look at Black men and Black women individually, a new picture appears. This is the only time I'll make that separation publicly, and I'm doing it not to divide us, but to clarify where the momentum is and where the community needs the most help. Because if we really want to restore the Black family, we have to start with the truth and not talking points. Let's start with the numbers. According to Pew Research and the US Census data, as of 2023, 36% of Black men are married, as opposed to Black women's 29%. That may not sound high, but what matters is the direction. Back in 2017 to 2021, Black men's marriage rates was around 34%, and Black women's was closer to 28%. Black men's marriage rate has grown about 0.8 percentage points per year. If that same steady pace continues, no miracles, no manipulation, Black men will reach roughly 40% married by 2027. That's not an exaggerated claim, it's a statistical projection based on real data. This is the story of a quiet, consistent comeback. Look at that steady increase, it's not just about marriage, it's about stability, a sign that more Black men are entering committed, long-term relationships, often after years of building themselves financially and emotionally. And remember, this growth is happening despite real obstacles: economic inequality, incarceration history, cultural barriers, and changing attitudes towards marriage. Even with all of that, Black men's marriage rates are trending up, not down. That tells you something powerful. Black men still value family. They still believe in legacy. They still believe in building something stable, even in a generation where many are walking away from it.
A 2020 study published in Innovation in Aging, titled Social Support, Everyday Discrimination, and Depressive Symptoms Among Older African Americans, a longitudinal study by Muzan et al., examined older African Americans and found that Black women were more likely than Black men to report that they neither have nor desire a romantic relationship, while more men were married or cohabiting, and that gap widened with age. That finding matters because it highlights a persistent difference in relationship engagement over time. It's not about who's better or worse, it's about willingness and intention. Pew Research adds another layer to this. Among singles nationwide, 61% of single men say they're currently looking for a relationship or dates, compared to just 38% of single women.
It's not about who's better or who's losing. It's about choices. While some men are choosing love, wherever it's found, some women are choosing independence because they can.
Put together, that means the men, especially Black men, are the ones showing higher interest in forming and maintaining long-term partnerships. That's not social media speculation, that's straight data. Now let's talk about economics, because that's where most of the misunderstanding begins. In 2024, Black men ended the year earning just over $52,000 annually. By mid-2025, that number had climbed to around $1,100 per week, showing consistent year-over-year income growth. That's the strongest trajectory we've seen for Black men in years. Meanwhile, Black women's earnings have remained roughly around $47,000 per year, which is a solid figure, but it's not keeping pace with inflation or with the growth of other groups. In fact, a key shift happened in 2024 and continued through 2025. Hispanic men have out-earned Black women in weekly median income. It used to go like this: Black men rank 5th in median weekly earnings, Black women rank 6th, Hispanic men 7th, and Hispanic women 8th. Now it's Black men 5th, Hispanic men 6th, Black women 7th, Hispanic women 8th. This matters because it shows that the economic narrative that Black women are outpacing everyone was never accurate. Now, a small percentage of Black women are doing extremely well, but the majority are still facing deep financial strain, especially single mothers. And when the government shutdown halted SNAP benefits, it exposed how many Black households were surviving paycheck to paycheck. That wasn't an isolated problem. It was a glimpse into how fragile the economic foundation still is for millions of women in our community. So this isn't a message to criticize Black women, it's a message to identify where help is needed the most. Because you can't build stable families on unstable finances. finances. Now, circling back to marriage, if black men can keep the same steady pace we've seen since 2021, just 0.8 percentage points per year, we'll reach 40% married by 2027 comfortably. That's not a fantasy, that's math. It's a slow climb, not a spike, but every small step represents growth in family formation, stability, and community rebuilding. Even if we never see a boom, the steady rise itself is historic. Now let me make something clear. This isn't about men versus women. This is about truth versus illusion. We can't talk about saving the black family if we're unwilling to separate data and understand each side's reality. Because right now, the data says this: black men are trending upward in marriage and income, and many black women are struggling, even as some are thriving. That's not division, it's a diagnosis. If we can't identify where progress is being made and where help is needed, then we can't fix the problem. We cannot heal what we won't pay attention to. So again, this conversation is not about placing blame. It's about bringing balance. We cannot save the black community with slogans, hashtags, or wishful thinking. And we also can't save the black community by demonizing black men who are actually trending upward in the areas that the black community holds against them the most. Because the truth is this: black men are making real progress in marriage and income. Black women as a group are facing increased economic pressure that needs to be addressed. And both sides need clarity and cooperation if the goal is rebuilding families. If we keep our current trajectory, black men reaching 40% married by 2027 will be a milestone moment. Proof that upward movement is possible, even after decades of decline. And I know it won't be a social media trend, it'll just simply be data. It'll be a quiet comeback that shifts how the next generation views the black household. One marriage at a time, one household at a time, one generation at a time. Now, before we end this discussion, I want to leave the black community with a question. For decades, the narrative was that black men don't want to get married. But history and current data both show that black men have consistently been more likely to be married than black women. And those marriage rates, especially interracially, are still increasing. But here's the question we have to face as a community. If black men continue to marry, if they continue to form families, even if some of those families include women of other races, are those black men still accepted as part of the black community? Not that those black men actually need anyone's approval. I'm asking from a cultural level. Because you can't say you want to see more black men married, then turn around and reject the ones who do it, just because their wives aren't black. For example, let's look at Robert F. Smith, a billionaire who's donated millions to HBCUs, supported black education, and given back in ways most people could only dream of.
When people talk about billionaires, they often think of wealth, power, and status. But when you mention Robert F. Smith, you're talking about something far greater. You're talking about a man who used his success to invest back into the heart of the black community. Founder and CEO of Vista Equity Partners isn't just one of the most successful investors of our time. He's a visionary who believes that wealth is best measured by how much you give, not how much you keep. In 2019, he made history when he stood on the stage at Morehouse College's commencement ceremony and shocked the world by announcing that he would wipe out the student loan debt for the entire graduating class.
On behalf of the 8 generations of my family who have been in this country, we're going to put a little fuel in your bus. This is my class, 2019. And my family is making a grant to eliminate their student loans.
That single act of generosity, valued at over $34 million, freed hundreds of young black men from the burden of debt and gave them the chance to start their adult lives with a clean slate. But his commitment didn't stop there. Smith went on to establish the Student Freedom Initiative, a nonprofit designed to provide income-contingent funding alternatives to high-interest student loans, specifically focused on HBCUs and students in STEM fields. That program, launched with an initial $50 million pledge from Smith himself, has now expanded to dozens of HBCUs nationwide, helping students build financial freedom, not financial bondage. He's also contributed to the Morehouse College Scholarship Fund, Cornell University's College of Engineering, and the National Museum of African American History and Culture, where he donated $20 million, making him one of the museum's largest individual donors.
Yet, because he's married to a white woman, he's still not fully embraced as a Black success story. So the question is simple. Black men continue to marry, continue to build families, continue to rise in income and stability, but some of those marriages are interracial. Are you ready to accept that progress, or will you reject it because it doesn't look the way you want it to? All those Black men are still part of the Black community. So let's talk about it. Peace.